Hi everyone, hope you're all safe and well, and welcome to another Disney Infinity tutorial. Now today's clip's a bit of a lengthy one, but we're going to show you how we created that train crash that we released earlier this week. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you every stage from how it comes off the monorail and all the carriages come crashing down into the valley, blowing up into 1,000 pieces. So we're going to show you all that. In addition, before I show you that part, I'm actually going to show you how this mission ends, and I got a few little surprises on there, things that I wanted to really push the memory to the limit. So you'll see how that goes, and we'll show you a few little changes we've made as well, because I've been listening to your feedback, and one of the things that people have mentioned, and I probably agree with you, but I do quite like it, is the Papa H fall is a bit too frequent. Even the man himself thinks we probably want to tone it down a little bit, and what we've done is, you'll notice I've trimmed it down slightly. So we've still got the kills, but there's not a scream all the time, so it's not that constant drone going on, so it's not too bad, but we still have them there. So as you see, they're still dying. You'll notice also that my shooting skills haven't improved at all whatsoever. I still keep falling off. Now, I'm also going to do a shout out to Jet Blast 190. He's actually been reconstructing this level, so he's been following me along with this clip, and he's actually been rebuilding this, and he's actually got this all to work so far, and he's up to the same stage as we are now, so hats off to him, well done. Going to give you a little bit of advice what he actually did, and I'm amazed he still carried on and build it, is that while you're building the level and you're testing it, before you do any tests, you must save the level, which he admits to, he does as well, but he forgot to switch off the train. So basically the train was going around the mountain when he saved it, which meant he had to redo the entire train section again, and that's linking up at least 30 objects to a path. Now, hats off to him for having to do that, but he's been a good tester, and he's been building a level, and he said it's all worked, and he's been able to follow, which has been brilliant. I also found out that he's a Miami Dolphins fan. Now, although we're based in the UK here, and you think we only like football, I'm too a huge Miami Dolphin fan. The only downside is that since I've been following them way back in '85 when they lost the Super Bowl to Washington, the Dolphins haven't pretty much done anything ever since, so I think I might be to blame. So Jet Blast 190, I apologise if I've ruined their chances in any more sporting events. I will still carry on supporting them, so you might need to change your team, I don't know, but I haven't given them any luck whatsoever. Now, I slightly digressed there, so sorry about that, but what I'm going to do now is get back to this level, and what I'm going to focus on here is how do we finish this level. It's gone through various stages in this design. The first part was to try and pinch one of the carriages to lift it up. The second part was to have the big explosion that we see, and that's the end. But when we got to the big explosion, it's like, well, what happens to you? You were left on the ship. So I think I needed some part of the story to show you that you did your job, and we did manage to steal some coaxium, which Solo failed to do in the movie. So as you'll see here, we have our ship now that's departed and waiting for us now to jump onto it. So everything we've done so far still stands, and I've added a few extra things that we're going to show in the next clip. But the ship now is waiting at the side. So what we're going to do is, when we jump onto that ship now, it's going to jump onto another path. So if I jump across, the ship now drops onto another path you don't notice, and now flies off. So as we now pan off to see the crash, you'll see to the right that the ship is now flying off. It's now doing something. So we'll now watch the crash. Which is awesome, right? And we're going to show you all that logic in this clip. But then while we're looking at the wreckage, I said, well, what do we want to happen? Well, you'll notice now, our shuttle now flies down in. And because we got the carriages, I thought this is the perfect part now to pick up one of the leftover carriages. So the shuttle comes down. We are still on there, by the way. Picks up a carriage underneath the carriage on the screen, and now flies off, and we have successfully done our mission, and we can go back to the Crimson Tide as happy people. And it comes up and lets us know that our mission is now complete. Ta-da! Tell me what you think of that. But in the meantime, let me show you how I do this crash. So continuing where we left off on part 9, we have a separate lot of paths where our shuttle comes to the stop. And you'll see here, when we've loaded the level back up, we cannot actually see any logic to that path. But if I go to the properties of it, you can see there is a logic gate connected to it. It does connect to that section, and that logic gate sends 3 signals out all the way over to the side here, which stops and turns the path off. So these 3 paths get turned off, and you physically can't see those. And the reason for that is that I've got too many objects in, probably some test buttons on, and because we know things have gone okay, you may find you have to delete some things off. So if you've got to this stage and you find you can't see those logics, sometimes deleting a few objects you don't need, we can add them later, you will get them to appear. And I'll show you that when we reload this back, this appears. But what we're going to do here is, you can see all that has logic in, but there's no connections. We're going to use 3 logic gates, and these are going to control the path from which the train jumps off. So we're going to connect these up even though you're not going to see them at the moment. So we're going to do a new logic connection on output. So it sends a signal off to stop the transporter. We're going to say, right now, can you close each one of these gates, so that when the train comes round and these gates are closed, it's going to jump off onto the path that goes off the mountain range. A new logic connection on output. Can you close all those 3 gates? So we've done those. That's great. So we've done that. Now I'm going to position these where the paths that need to appear. Now remember, the train is on 3 sets of track. You've got the lower part of the train, the middle and the top. So we're going to move these all back up so we can see them near the part where we're going to get them to crash, and we're going to get them to crash on this side. Now the reason why I chose this side was to give the camera enough time to view the crash occurring, plus I wanted a lot of light onto it. I didn't want it to be hidden. So that's why I chose that side of the crash, so we could build the tension up. So I'm just picking these up and moving them across. And what I'm then going to do is I'm then going to save the level, and then I'm going to reload it back up, and then you'll then see sometimes when you do that the paths come back to life, which is quite handy. So what I also did is I deleted a couple of my test buttons that I don't use anymore. So you know, the ones I did with the cable car, had a few test buttons in, I deleted those off, and you'd be amazed that freed up just enough little memory to get the visual graphics to reappear. Okay, so I'm stacking these up in 3, and I'm stacking them on top of each other because there's 3 tracks for the train. Okay, so we're just going to place them there. We're obviously going to hide them when we get there in the moment. Okay, but that's what's going to be the case, and the train here is going to come straight off, and I've picked a bend because I can get the train so you won't even notice the slight jump as the train falls down and comes crashing down into the valley. Don't worry about the camera, I've already got that in place, but we'll show you how I put the camera in there in a bit later, so just ignore that at the moment, but I will show you that particular part. So we're going to create these 3 tracks. Now one thing you have to be aware of, that on the train already we've got a number of locators with some special effects already, and we've got the smoke and we've got some fire, so they're already connected to the train. So when the train goes off, that smoke effect is already crashing down with the actual train itself. So we're going to put this little path tool here, and we're going to get them to drop off onto the screen. Now another thing, I didn't actually think the train was going to fall the way it did. It just happens that the rectangular pieces don't like going vertically, so they change down. Yeah, but we're going to put a path tool at these points, and we'll reset these at the moment, just to curve off and drop off, and they just happen to fall in a particularly nice way. So I was very fortunate how they worked. It wasn't how I thought it would be, but the end result was far better than I actually planned. So you see I did a little bit of adjustment. What I've actually done now, you'll notice I've reloaded the level back up, and now look, the logic connections now reappear because I just freed up just enough little bit of memory of those test buttons getting out that those buttons now reappeared. And sometimes by adding logic it reassesses it, so we can now see those connections. So don't panic if you can't see them, they do reappear. Right, now this is the tricky bit. We would like the curve of the track to appear. It doesn't have to be exact, so you can have them go slightly different, but we're try and keep them in all in the set of 3 together. So you'll see here the train's going to come along, hit those logic gates, and then going to jump off this path, which is why we needed that dot, and then going to join this route. And luckily we can still see the line. Now at some point these lines are going to disappear, which is why we haven't done the mountain range in too much detail. So I'm hoping that you've still got these lines. So we're going to get the train to come driving off, and we've got to picture if it's coming at the speed, it's going to move a little bit. So you'll see here maybe do it slowly. You'll see just make the lines larger, but I'm trying to get it now to be a large curve coming crashing down. Okay, so we're just trying to get, and we're going to fall out, and we're going to measure the curve, trying to keep it straight, by the way, and you'll see here I'm trying to get it straight on the screen. Now, as we start putting the path in, and you'll see me plot this, I'm going to have to do a shout out, because the technique I use for the crash, right, I've done the Papa H full. This is called the PT split. Okay, and the reason why it gets referred to the PT split is for Mr. Professor Toybox, because I did not know you could do this, and I only found out this year from one of his tutorials on how to use a splitter path. Okay, and as soon as I saw that clip, I went, that is how I'm going to get my train to crash. So hats off to Mr. Professor Toybox, thank you very much, because it was your logic that allowed me to do the crash, and it end up in the way that it's done, and we'll show you how that goes through on the screen. So you'll see here I'm trying to create this path as we come down. Now, one thing that you all quite liked is you quite like the fact that when I hit the ground that the pieces seem to bounce all over the place, so we're going to create the path to do that exact feeling. So I'm trying to get it to come down at an angle. It's got to look like it flows, by the way, so this is quite hard to get the view you want. I don't want it to look like it halfway down moves angle. It's got to look like it's falling. So this is the point it hits the ground. Okay, so we go, right, we're hitting the ground, so now we're going to move across. We're going to go in under the ground and we're going to bounce up. Okay, so we're now going to try and do a little U-turn, so it's now going to come back up and going to bounce across this ground. Now, it may look weird when you play this, but we hide all that by the explosions. Yeah, so you'll see the stuff all move, but they're hidden by the explosion. So if it looks odd without them, it would look a bit weird. But I'm trying to create, it bounces back up and comes back down. And again, trying to look like it flows, and then you'll see here as I move it across, again, trying to keep it straight. And you're going to need several points here, by the way. So you'll see I'm doing a double bounce. So a big bounce, and then a small bounce, and then I roll the section out here on the screen. So you'll see here I'm rolling this out. And you want several points, by the way. Don't do short stops, because we need the train to come slowing down. So you need several of these on the end, and don't worry if you do quite long stretches. Yeah, I'm going to show you how we cheat that, because we can't turn the path off. So that would be our path, and all the pieces would be lined up together. Okay, which is quite good. It comes crashing down, all good. Right, so that was the bit that I knew how to do. And then one thing I didn't know, and Professor Toybox showed me, was this little tool, and I never even knew this existed. So as we come down to the ground, we come all the way down, and we hit the ground, smash, right, and as we bounce back up, that is where I would like it to change direction. I want it to go different routes. And I thought you had to jump a path, but if you hold your pointer here, right, don't look at the panel, look at the bottom. It says L1 create a branch. I did not know that that even existed until he pointed that out. So the PT split is what I'm now calling this technique, is I can now branch off from here, and you'll now get a green bar. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is trying to make it look like either way on the screen. Now you can put more of these in, by the way, but it gets really complicated, so I made it was 3 splits. Made it nice and easy. It could go one either way, and by the way, it's random. Yeah, so I'm going to make the thing come over here, and I'm going to repeat the same process as it bounces across, little jumps across either side. Yeah, now there are some settings there, and if you look on his tutorial, he explains all the logic when you do with a split. But the nice thing is we don't have to change the settings. If you just leave it as it is, it's a random chance if it either goes forward, if it goes left or right, it's all equal. Yeah, so again, I still need the number of dots expanding down the side. Yeah, so that's one split, could go that way. So we go back to the point where we had the split, and we press L1, and I'm going to get an alternative route. So I'm going to get it to split this way. So we'll do another branch. Yeah, it's tricky when you can't see it. So L1, there we go. Another split, please. And I've been playing this game for 5 flipping years, and I never knew this did this. This is genius. So thank you, Mr. Professor Toybox. You did a fantastic job there. So now I've got the crash coming off at the side. And that's the beauty about this game. There is still things and techniques you can use, and listening to what you guys say and feedback to this has made the level better. So you can always improve on a level and always do it. And I'd love to know anyone else who's building this and how they've got it. Have they got it to work? Did they find it okay? And Jet Blast 190, if you're going to have done your level, love to see how yours turned out. Is it similar? Is it slightly different? Love, post it if you can. I will definitely watch these. So if you've done your own ones, definitely let me know how you go. But the beauty with this split is there is no tricky logic I'm doing. It will automatically choose. I don't have to say go left or right. It will randomly do it, which is why the next time I play it, the crash pieces will appear in a different scenario. So I have 3. No, I did 3 because I thought it was then going to get too complicated, and I was more so panicking that you won't actually see the lines. Now this is important because this is the second time I've done this. You must place these locators at the end of your path. Okay, and you may go, why are you doing that? And the reason why you're doing this is that these lines are going to disappear. When we start adding the other paths, we've got so much in memory they are going to go. And then you don't know where the ends are because all you're going to get is a range of dots. I am going to have one locator here because that is going to be where all the explosions start. So I'm going to place that one in there. Okay, but you want to know where the end of the paths are because what we want to do is we need to slow it down. Okay, so these dots will disappear and they're quite key points in the crash, and you'll see that as we go through that they will vanish off. So that is one path done, complete. We now need to do the exact same thing with the other path. So we're going to get a path tool out. Yeah, so we've done that. Oh, don't forget to change the speed of it, and I kept the same as 200. So the same speed as the thing, I just set that to 200. So it's the same as the other one. Yeah, as it comes flying down, which is straightforward enough. So all we've got to do now are the other paths. Now we know the other one's just one underneath. So you'll see here, line it across, move it across here. And to make things nice and easy, I've tried to keep this near enough one point underneath this particular box. Now the problem with the path tool is that when you go down at an angle, they don't then follow the same place. They'll then come out of sync, which I didn't actually mind because I don't mind the train coming apart. See, that is just one down and it doesn't look 100% correct. You'll see it looks a bit cranky, but the more points you put in, you'll notice it then starts to smooth out. But my biggest fear here was that when the lines disappear, you don't get to see that join. So I was really panicking that, can I see, is it going to look okay? And while you can, keep doing it because they are going to vanish. And again, I want to try and keep it so it didn't look like it changed direction too much. Very hard to get the angle this, so it was a bit tricky. You may want to give it a couple of goes. Now same thing applies. This is going to go and hit the ground. So again, trying to look like it stands out. And I thought I'd show you all the troubles you are. Also, my controller was having a bit of a funny mode. It kept on jumping all over the place. So it's not me being a complete muppet. It just kept on doing it. Right, so we're now going to hit the ground with this piece. So my question here is, we've got the 3 spreading over here. So I'm going to now spread in a slightly different section for the bottom part of what those sections are. So we're going to hit the ground here. And then we're going to branch those off. And you can see now the line's now gone. So I'm thinking, yeah, I think we're okay with that part. So now I'm going to go over this side. So I think, okay, we're going to bounce down here. And I think because I bounced out the angle, because the middle path happens to be all the little black joining part of the carriages, and the bottom and the top are the canisters. And I think because I twist at an angle is how I got the effect for the carriages. They're not to go straight down because it realised it was turning, and that's why they weren't all straight, which actually turned out purely by chance to be better. So I'm going to try and do a bend curve. But for the last few minutes, all I'm doing is placing a path. And now you'll see here they've gone blank. So we've now got to try and picture the join. You've got to try and picture that it's bouncing up, going to bounce, hit the ground, and then bounce a little bit up again to like a double bounce so that it keeps on moving. And you'll see this movement still occur through the explosion, which looks like they're all still moving the screen, so it gives you that really cool effect. In fact, this one I think I only just do one. and I want to make sure you've got a number of pieces coming down the side here. Now, this is the problem I had with this was turning the path off. You couldn't just turn the path off. So I'm going to show you that in a bit, but what I basically did is, okay, so I've got the carriage now, it's come down, my line's now starting to disappear. We bounce up over here, I'm going to use my L1 to branch off and create alternative routes. Okay, now my biggest fear here was like, okay, now we've got this occurring, how do I get the pieces to stop? Oops, I've jumped back into Mr. Solo by accident. Let's go back to that point. Where's the point? I need to go back to that point, press L1. Okay. Now, what I was saying here is, how do I get the things to turn? Because when the pieces come down, they're all going to go to the very end. Now, what I'm going to show you as we get through is we're actually going to slow the path down. So what we're going to do is, when we start getting up to the high part, I'm going to reduce the percentage setting of those points. So at the moment it's at 200, and each of those points you can go into the settings and change them to 100%, and I'm going to bring them down to 50%, 40%, 30%, and down to 1. So what basically happens is the train will slow down along the same path, which gives enough time for all the other pieces to catch up and hit the ground, and then hopefully when they reach one of the points, I'm going to switch the path off, which switches them all off, which comes to a standstill. But you can't switch them all off until all the pieces are down, so I had to slow them up as well, and by slowing them up also gives you that slow movement as they're coming to a rest. And that was purely by chance. I would love to say I'd worked all that logic out, that's why I did it, but it did its bit. Right, so we have another point on here, so this one's going a bit over here. I thought you'd want to crisscross between it. There was a gap. And again, when you finish with this, use the blue locator to know the point ends, because they're now starting to disappear. Okay, so that's worked. So I've got 3 points, got the crashes, so where's my locators? Because they're all starting to vanish. Now the points also come to another cool part as well, because that lovely explosions that you all see, you'd think I've put loads of special effects in. I haven't. I've only got like, I think 4 explosion effects, but because I've put them related to a point on the path, every time a carriage goes along the path and hits that explosion, you get a staggered set of explosions. And because not every path is going to be greeted, you get the explosion staggered as well. So again, when we come to show you that in a moment, that's another reason how the effect just was even better than I actually anticipated. Right, so we've got that point there, we've got our locators on, right, so we've got happy with that. Obviously change the settings to 200. Now we'll do some PS5 news while I'm doing this as well, because allegedly the PS5 it only will run out of the 4,000 games that are available to it. Well, it won't run 6 of them. Now it hasn't said Disney Infinity won't run it, so I've got a funny feeling it probably will run. Now I'm fortunate enough I got one on pre-order, and so I'm hopefully on the 19th of November, because in the UK we get it slightly later, we'll test to see if a PS5 will run Disney Infinity, which will be so cool if it can. So fingers crossed it would still run it, but we're going to hopefully put a little test on here. So this is where it was 2 points on, and it doesn't, 2 points seemed too far, so I thought I needed to bring it in. It didn't seem to flow right, and again you'll have to play around with that, see what you think. But I went from being 2, and as it starts to fall down I think I go back to 1. Do I stick to 2? Let's have a look. I think I stayed with 2 there. You could see I was having trouble trying to make a mind up, is it good? And then my controller keeps on moving to the left. It was really, I think I need to get a new controller. I ummed and ahed. And that's the thing with Disney Infinity, which is when things don't work or you go through, you're going to have to spend an hour trying to put that on. I want to make sure I don't have to do it again. And by the way, I had to do this whole logic at least 3 times A, to test could I get it to work, B, did I get it to work, right, and then I've got to make sure I can show you how it works. So I've done it 3 times this particular logic, and it doesn't take that long. It takes slightly long on my clip, purely in the fact that I'm trying to show you each stage. But the reason why I do Disney Infinity, I love to switch off, I love playing games, I love to switch off and just build. And this level has gone far better than planned. It's just taken its while to get there. But I'd love to know how many of you, like I said, I'd love to know how many of you have actually built this or tried to go on doing this. There's a TV show called The Snowpiercer. Is it like a train that runs through the mountains? You could just do the monorail on the low ground, doing a train, and just do the train track with the level on top, and ignore the whole cable car scenario. That'd be a lot easier to do and take up less memory whatsoever. So it starts getting a little bit tricky when you can't see the path. So you just got to try and keep your focus of what you're doing. And you can see, if I didn't put those locators down, you don't know where the ends are. So it's important that you do that. Yeah, this is a good little tip. Those locators are not needed at the end, but the thing is, because you don't see them, I don't think I delete them. I think I'll leave them in there throughout the entire level, purely on the fact that if I wanted to change it at a later date, I will do. Right, so I've got the 3 crashes here. I'm going to go down onto this point, press my L1. Now I should go back to spark mode. This is one thing I kept on doing it. You have to be in your spark mode scenario. I was going, why can't I get my locator point? It won't do it. Right, but I need to be in spark mode. There you go. Now you point to one of the points. So not that one. Where is it? Can't find it. Oh, too many points together. There we go. L1, create a branch. And we spread this out. Now, obviously, the train is crashing forward, so you've got to make the path branch forward. It would look weird if the carriages bounce backwards. Yeah. So as they're coming down the mountain, they're traveling at 200, they hit the ground, and they will bounce forward. So again, that also helps with the effect. You can't make it bounce backwards, the screen. They would look odd. I'm going to do a little hop and a bounce. Can't see it at all, so just hoping. Even if it's not straight, because the carriages are going to be moving around and rolling, it will still give that effect, which is quite a handy little thing. Right. But one thing that is on this clip, it looks way more complicated than it really is. All we're doing is creating the paths. The complicated bit is that we can't see it now. Yeah. But so far, all we've got are 3 logic gates at the top there. That is it. And 3 paths that we use the branch tools to separate out. That is it at the moment. So it's not what you call the trickiest thing in the world. Right, let's find the point ends while we still know where they are. You see, I'm trying to find them. I can't find them. That's 2. So 1, 2. Trying to find where they went, and that was the other one. No, I've done that one. See, I even got lost. Where to go from there? I was putting my last and final branching. Perfecto. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I talked about slowing them down. Now, I thought I could bring it down to around about to level 10 should be slow enough. And I'm going to do. I think I showed you briefly it wasn't slow enough, and they were still left limbo in the air. So I brought it down to 1. That'll make more sense in a moment when I show you it. Right. Next locator, please. Stick the locator on. Right. So we now have all the ends of the field from that locator. Right. We need to go back up to the top and set it to 200. So they'll all fall off together. Dun, dun, dun. Right, we'll change that setting there. So we've done that with all of them. The path has to be turned on, can't be switched on, so that's good. That's 200. Perfect. Right. So what we're going to do here is, when point reaches that path, that top path, so when point reaches the path, we're going to go to one of these 3 logic gates. So can you go to that logic gate there, please? Right. And can you input into there? Okay. Now what we do now is new logic connection. When input is blocked, and it's only blocked because we've closed the ship, can we now jump that ship? So can you connect triggering actor to the path? And that's why we got them in line. So we do the next one. So when point reaches path on this one, do it into the middle logic gate, okay, which has been closed because the ship was on the alternative path. Yeah, that's another thing that we need to be worried about. When input blocked, and it only gets blocked when the ship comes to a standstill on that other path, can we connect trigger actor to path? And the last one, new logic connection. When point reached on path, can we input into the bottom one? Okay, so we do that. Not input, by the way, it had to be input blocked. So I did it wrong there. So when input blocked, yeah, can we connect triggering actor to path? Connect triggering actor to path. There you go. Cool. So that will now get the train coming flying off and crashing down there into the mountain. Right, so what we can do now is grab each one of those things and we can now move them out the way, but keep them in sequence in your mounting range. So towards the end here, I make sure I keep them in line so I know which one it relates to. So I've got a first, second and third. So all I'm doing is going to place them down. So that's the top one. And I've just speeded that up. I've got the 3 all lined up now, but they're in that line at straight order, so I know that's the bottom one, that's the top one, and that's how I've set those all up. Yeah, so keep those in order. Right, let's go back up. Okay. Now, this is a target camera I've used, yeah, and I've placed it here on the screen. So I'm just going to get this up on the properties, just so you see it. I wanted it to look down on the mountain so you could see the eagle's nest. I wanted you to see all the stuff that we built. So just basically chuck in a target camera in here. Okay, that's all you got to do. Just stick it there so it's going to focus on there. Now what we're going to do with that is we're going to get that to focus on a locator that we already have in place. And that locator is where the stormtroopers appear. So what we're going to go onto this camera, we're going to do a new logic connection, and we're going to do a new locator connection. Not on activate. Oops, went wrong there. Sorry, came out of there. Let's go back one. I don't want to do that. That's it. I want to do a new locator connection. Okay. Now we have those already in place, and we have them already over here on the train. Okay. And we have these locators where the enemies respawn, and that's the front of the carriage. So I would like you to focus on the front of the train. So we're going to locate on that particular point. Yeah. So we're going to connect to that locator. So that locator is used for crashes. It's also used for the stormtroopers to reappear. So can we connect that to the camera and target? So that is now connected to that field. Yeah, and the line goes back, which is great. All we now need to do with that target camera, which is facing that direction, is go to the properties of that. And what we want to do with the properties on that, we want it to follow in. It says follow cut triggering player. We actually want to follow the connected locator. That's the key thing we need to do with that camera. And when I showed you my previous clip, the different angles of where they crashed, all I did was grab the camera and move it in different places. And I've had the camera is the zoom distance for that particular case. And you can reposition that wherever you want. Now the only question is, when do we trigger that camera? And we'll show you that in a moment. So we go back up. So we have our ship here. When the ship goes through here and it goes by flying onto this point, okay, at that point there we know the thing has stopped. So we now know when that ship gets to that point there, we know that, hey presto, we are going to crash the train. So we want to switch the camera on that we've done that particular point. Yeah, but obviously we want to get onto that screen. So we know that this logic gate down here, right, which is a little beauty. So let's get the logic gate. So we need the logic gate here at the side. We've already done 3 already, which are those at the top end. So we're going to do new logic connection. Yeah, same thing applies like we did before. On output, can we close that gate? Okay. So that's going to close that one. So now we can know he's right. So we've got these options here, all being closed by the same logic gate, by the way. That single logic gate closes all these three. So I'm just going to place that down there. And what I'm going to do is, right, when our train goes along the track, when it reaches a point, so it's come around the corner, and we have to hopefully get the whole train come round. So the train's quite long, remember, so we need to a little bit make sure we've got on. So I'm going to pick a point, which I think, where's the next point? So it's going to be this point here. Yeah, I want it to come off because I want the camera, because sometimes the camera has that little block in it, so I want the camera to give me enough time for us to focus what's going on. So when we get onto this point here, so new logic connection, when point reaches on here, can we go and input into that gate? If I do it too far back, the train's not going to be, it's going to be going around the bend, and I won't have jumped off, so I may have jumped off before I happened. So I want to make sure the train has gone past that thing. So on that box there, we'll do new logic connection, and we'll switch that camera on. I was umming and ahhing where to put it, but we'll go for it there. So new logic connection, when point reached on path, go all the way down to the bottom. We've already got a logic gate already, which I've already set that up, but where am I looking at the logic gate? Oh, that logic gate was to start the spaceship above, by the way. That's where I went wrong, sorry. That was when the ship comes through. You know, when the train comes on, it will make the ship drop down on the path below. So what I'm going to do here is going to pick a different one altogether. Sometimes I think if you separate the logic, it won't confuse it. So new logic connection, when point reached on path, can we input into that gate? Can we input into there? Right. Now, if that is blocked, that means the train is going to crash. The new logic connection, when input blocked, great. Can we just now go and activate that camera, wherever that camera may be? Where is it? It's over here. Can you activate that camera, and that will then turn that camera on, and then we'll focus the train ready to watch the whole thing come crashing. Just activate it. That's it. We're not going to do it on a timer. It's just going to switch that on, and that'll do the option. And you can move that around in different positions wherever you want that to go. That's all linked to those gates down here. Now, one thing I want to do is, so you didn't show you the jump, is I'm going to use a little bit of special effects. So I'm going to get an effects generator. Yeah. And what this is going to do is going to have the explosion appear. Okay, so we're going to have the explosion go off on the screen. So we're going to have a little effect here, and this is going to have repetitive explosions, because every time a carriage or train goes across it, it's going to blow up to one in the corner. So it's going to hide the fact that the track has been derailed. Now theoretically we're not hiding the piece, so I didn't want to do some logic to move the piece away. So I thought, well, if we create an explosion on the corner, you won't actually notice that piece is not there. So we're going to use this effects generator to create a large explosion on the corner piece to hide the fact that the corner is still there, so the train should actually go round it, yeah, but instead it comes crashing off. And when the train comes crashing down, you'll be too busy focusing on the train to realise that the track was still there. So I need another one of these locators. Okay. So we go on to here, new logic connection, new locator connection, sorry, it's connected to there, which is brilliant. Right, now, this piece here, which starts the camera, what we'll do is, on input blocked, can we play once the mass explosion? Now, you only play it once, but because there are multiple trains going over that point, it will then do another explosion, another explosion, another explosion, another explosion. So it's going to play a huge explosion there. I'm going to grab that, I'm going to move that, and place that on the very corner. Okay, so I'm going to put that there. That is going to play on the corner. I'll line that on the track so we won't see it. So that there gets my plane to crash and blow up there on the track. So just every time a train goes across, camera switches on, and explosion, explosion, explosion. Right, so we now want the explosions on the ground. Now I do 4 to start with. I think I increase this to 6 a bit later on, so you may want to do the 6 now. And you can see here I was so panicking about the memory, like, oh, we've still got a lot of memory on here. Right, so we'll put this on here, so we have each one of these. And they have to be independent, by the way, and the reason why they have to be independent because it depends on what goes on these points. So you're going to have to link all these locators to that particular point. So new locator connection, and you've got to do it to each of these paths. So new locator connection, link those up. New locator connection, link that up as well. New locator connection, link that one up. So now that we link these up, this is going to create our fantastic explosion that occurs. Okay, so what we're going to do here is when they reach one of these points on the path, we're going to get it to make an explosion to occur. Now you've got to be aware that, so you'll see here I'm just going, when point reaches on path, so that means it's hit the ground. So I'm going to do new logic connection. When point reaches the path, can we create an explosion? Yeah, so we're going to go over here and can we input into here, and can we play once one explosion. Now the reason why it works so well is because there are 8 parts, or in the carriages there's 30 parts along it. So as each part goes along that path, explosion, 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 so it repeats itself, so you get several reoccurring. Now that locator there was just as a point, so I can get rid of that locator now, so that can move it to one side, and the explosion is going to be on that dot, so I can place that here back where that centerpiece. So I only need the one because that's going to cover all the other explosions that occur. So now what we're going to do here is, where do the other explosions point? So we have the explosion, it bounces over, so we're now picking other areas. Now not all of them are going to occur, because sometimes it might not even take that road. So I'm thinking it's going to bounce up, and as it moves down it gets to this point here, I'm going to have another explosion. And I'm trying to spread it out on my web. Now in total I use 6, yeah? So what I'm doing is going to move this a bit closer. So I'm going to say, right, let's have this here. So I'm thinking it bounces over and then blows up again. So on that case there, on that explosion, so new point. And again, it's getting all these pointer locators, it gets quite messy. But if you get more than one item going along the path, along this route, you'll get 2 explosions. So when I've had to do a Star Destroyer crash, I've had to create every single explosion, and each one allowed loads of these locators, because the Star Destroyer is just 1 point. But the train is consisted of like 50 points, and as those things go over again and again, we get explosion after explosion. And again, that wasn't what I initially thought was going to work. Yeah, so you get more happening with those. In addition, what you forget is that we already have locators. They will create explosions, and those locators have already got effects happening to them, like the smoke and the fire, all coming pummeling in. So it all actually came together so well. Because we've used them on other areas. So again, you'll see I get lost, but I'm just trying to find out where else do I need. I need an explosion out the side, and you need to make sure they spread out, because you want the explosion to look like it expands as it goes across. Otherwise it's too clustered in one area. So when point reaches on path, the big trick here is to remember where you've placed them. Yeah, where did I just put that explosion? Yeah, because you can't remember it. So play once, place huge explosion. Right, I'm going to grab that, and I've got to move that to where I think I had it. It's very tricky. Right, and you'll see my controller not working properly, but I will. There you go, so that's one more, and I need one more on the other side. Now, my concern when I was doing this was, are there going to be enough? Which is why I add another 2 explosions in here. But like you say, you might want to use brick blocks to identify them a little bit clearer. You could use those as well, and you can delete the blocks out of the way while you try and track it. I used the locators, and as you'll notice here, probably a downside of locators is there's now too many flipping locators all over the place, and you can't work out which one's which. So maybe put some blocks in towards the end, I don't know. I'll let you guys just choose that. You've seen me use blocks before as a design aspect, so I can remember where things go. But I'm trying to get them on the bounce so that you'll see that if there's more pieces, paths go down one route, the explosion will go this way, the more explosions on the other route, and so on. Now, like I mentioned, we're going to add 2 more explosions, so I was thinking everything was more to the right and not the left side. So I'm going to add 2 more locators with those sections. And each time I was doing this, by the way, I was like, is it going to work? Am I going to push the memory over the edge? I don't want it to crash. And I thought, no, do you know what? I think we'll keep going. And I think the reason why it didn't blow the memory is because like I mentioned also, we've already used these units, and the memory only really gets gobbled up when you start using different objects. I mean, don't get me wrong, it will still use it up. But if you look at my memory there, it is right close to the top. And we still haven't had the ship fly by. So we tested this to the level here. Right, but there's two more options here, two more locators in. Okay, got to do the same thing again with this, new locator connection. And then all we've got to do here is then same thing, move it across and we'll position it on this side. So, and point reaches on this point. Play once. And you only get the large explosion, by the way, on the play once screen. The huge explosion doesn't repeat on a repeating place. Move that back. Okay, sorted. I've got the explosion on that side. And we're done there. So I actually used 5, not 6. Well, there you go. I thought I did more than that. Now, obviously what we need to do is we don't need the pieces then to go at the end of this path. When it gets to the end, repeat themselves and go back at the top. So what we need to do is we need to, that when the pieces get to the end, we need to turn it off, but we don't know which end they're going to get to. So luckily for us, we put those locators going around the edges. Okay, so what we're going to need to do here is going to need to go and grab a logic gate. So quickly fly and get logic gate. We'll get the little memory warning. Oh no, don't worry, we're still good. Okay, so we're going to put that down, right? So we're going to do that, not on the very end, by the way, because sometimes when you get at the very end, it does it. So it's the one before it occasionally. So you'll see I'm not going to do the very end one, probably the one here. So the new logic connection, when point reaches on path, can we input into this logic gate? Okay, and can we input in there? Now I'm going to do that for all the points going round. So I'm going to show you all these stages. So grab the path. Can't see it move down. Sometimes they get in the way, you can't see it. Can we just go down one, please? That's the locator. Sometimes you might have to move the locator out of the way because it gets in the way. It's there as a guide anyway. So, new logic connection and point reach and path, can we input into here? Now, like I say, we don't know which route they're going to take, and we don't know which one's going to get there first. I haven't measured it out perfectly. So as soon as one gets to the end of the path, what I want it to do is once you get to this particular point, then can you turn the path off? And I'm hoping that all the carriages are spread out across the space and they've all landed in time. That's the plan. But like I say, don't do the very end of the path. Occasionally it gets to the end and you turn the path off and the object has jumped up, back up to the scale, back up into the sky, which look a bit weird. So you're going to have what's it, 9 paths to connect up here. Yeah, because each one branches off. You've got the 3 paths plus the 2 additional branches. Yeah. See, they'll get in the way. Probably next time move them not directly on the spot to be really awkward. Point reaches on path. Can we turn that off? Now this is not a level that you can restart and do again. If you want to restart it, you have to reload the flipping thing. And just as well, another thing as well, I always save about 4 or 5 different versions of the level, so I've got 4 of them just in case it crashes when you save it. Because sometimes you can do all the logic, and when you save it, you blur it, and then you can't reload the thing back up. So I will create all alternative saves as well, just in case that should happen. It's happened to me a couple of times. I mentioned this before, but keep save as you go through. Right, so point reaches on path, we input into the gate. That's the last one. Perfect. Input into the gate. Great stuff. Right, that input's there. So what we'll do now with that, have I got them all? I think I have. I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to go move that all the way back up to the top of the 3 paths. Make my life a little bit easier, right? And what I'm going to do now is going to do on output, can we turn these 3 paths off? So new logic connection, on output, dun dun dun, can we turn these off? We'll grab that, we can display that out of the way. Let's put that downside, so that switches that section off, they're the paths that turns them off. And what I also need to do is I can now move all these and hide them away, so I can place these back. So I'm going to grab these and bring these back out of the way. I don't like moving these objects, sometimes when you move them that can make it crash as well. So when you're moving these gates, you'll see I've now moved them all. I've just speeded this all up. Sometimes I save it beforehand. I was a bit risky then. Right, so they've all now hidden. We'll get the last one out of the way. So all those gates are now logically done and hidden and sorted. Now, what we need to do here is we need to slow these things down to give them enough time. So I'm going to do this on one of the branches, but you'll have to do this on all the ones. What I did here is I changed the speed of these. So if you go to the properties of these, right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the property of these and I'm going to change it to low. Now I thought 10 was going to be slow enough, so you'll see I'll go to the properties of that, and one essentially you've got there is a percentage, and I changed that to 25 to slow it down. Right, the one towards the end, so this one did 25, so it's going to go from 200 down to 25 down to 10. Right, this one wants to be 1, not 10. Okay, I put 10 in, I put 1, and I did that and I repeated that for every single branch to slow them down. Okay, so you do that on all the remaining other 9 branches. But when I did a test, you'll see here it comes crashing down, the carriage is all split off, which is brilliant, all coming down brilliantly. Coming down, coming down, coming down. They bounce, we get the explosion, 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 but it was too quick. And so that moved down, and it all stopped. Like, fantastic. Look, it worked. But then, I realised that it was still up. Look, it's all still up in the air. No! Because I didn't stop it in time. The end pieces at the side got to the end way too much quicker before the rest of the train comes up. I didn't realise how long the train was. It's like flipping egg. So what we need to do here is we want to change these points. And I'm going to just show you one of them, but you have to do it on every single one of those parts. You go to properties, the one on the end when you get to the thing where it turns it off, set that to 1. Okay? And then you want to go back a number of stages. So I would go 1, 25, 40, 50. So I would go back at least 4 stages on there. Okay, so make that either 20, 25, next one 30 and 50, so it starts slowing down. So the properties are there, and then break that down to 50. That goes down from 200. Now let's make that 25. Yeah, and let's keep going back. Let's add more to those. So I brought it further back along the line. I've actually picked the wrong one in this particular case, but that was 100. So let's make that 50. But that's what you want to do. You want to bring it down so it will slow down. When it goes to 1, it goes really slowly, and by going really slowly it gives the other times to catch up, which is why when you look at the end crash they're all stacked together. But you have to do it on every single one of the paths. Yeah, so they've got 50 down to 40, 45 and so on as you go through the list. But the ones just before they go to the logic gate, switch them off, you set them to 1. Now hopefully I've made that clear, because you'll see me changing these different setting times. But that theoretically is it. Once those are done, that got your crash. Once you've got these timings done, you will have cracked it. So like we said, we jump onto the ship. Next week the next clip I will show you how we then fly the ship on. And now we've got the explosions repeating because the carriages are going over it. Right, now it comes off. And now when we hit the ground, the explosions occur. They bounce across different places, more explosions are going either side, and then the timer stops out and switches the path off. That's it, guys. I hope you like that. Thanks for following us. I will get the next clip out, which will just be the last touches, and our level will be finished. And then we'll get to do the final playthrough. Take care, look after yourselves, speak to you soon.